We're going to be looking at text columns today, and we'll keep it short because I know you all have to go back to your sprints. I just sent a file to everyone. That's what we're going to be using today, and I'm going to share my screen. But before we go into this, from last week, do we have any questions from last week? Yeah. Can we access the file? Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. So if you remember last week, we were looking at different, combining data and trying to extract data in different ways. And someone asked a question about splitting data. So that's what we're going to be doing today. You would find out that a lot of the time when you download Excel data from some systems, everything will come up in the same column. So like I have this, you download the data and you just have everything in the same column and you want it in different columns. So you need text to column to actually split that data. So for instance, this data, I need to split it. It's a combination of the first name, the last name, first name, last name, employee ID, and either the employee is full-time or part-time. So full-time will be FT, part-time will be PT. And I need to split this into the 4 columns by the side. You agree that you cannot use this data the way it is. So what you do is you select the data. I'm going to select all the way down. It's a lot of data, so you cannot possibly split it manually. So you need something to use to split. And if you click on your data, you go to text to columns. It comes up with this text box. And the first thing it would ask you, you have your data in this window here. You have your preview of selected data. And you have 2 options here. One is delimited, the next one is fixed width. It would default to whatever option it feels it applies to that data. Sometimes it defaults to fixed width, depending on the space between your data. So most of the time, it will default to delimited. And then if you click next, what you need to do is you need to find something to actually break this data. So something that is common to them to actually break the data. If you notice, between the first name and the last name, there's a comma. So we can actually use that comma to break it. So if I click on comma here, watch the window and see what happens. So it would break the data where that comma is, it will replace it. So it will move it to another column. And something else we can use to break this data is this character here. I don't know what it's called. So I can actually use that character to break this data. So that character is quite funny. I can't even find it on my keyboard. But what I would do is I will copy it from the data, because sometimes you have some characters and you don't even know where it is on your keyboard. So I can actually copy this character and use it to break this data. But after that, there's a space between, I can see there's a space between the employee ID and the FT or PT. So you can also use space to break it. The space between the character, the space between FT and PT. So I can actually break it this way. And then if I do next, this is where it's asking me where I want to put it, the destination. If you look at this, it's going to put it in cell B4. I don't want this in cell B4. I want it to start from cell D4 here. So I'll just change this to D4. That's where I want my data. And then finish. And because I actually did not use this character to break it, that character is still there. And I don't want it to be there. you can either do two things. You can before you do your text to column, you can actually copy that character. So before I do my text to column, I'm going to copy that character. I'm going to undo what I did just now and go to data, text to column, delimited, yes, next. I want other, and I'm going to put that character here. Can you see that it's now taking off that character and the column is there? And then next, I want it in cell D4. And then I can do finish. And then it will split my data perfectly. Sometimes you might need to like put in a character to be able to split the data. So you actually have to like manipulate the data so that you're able to split it. Sometimes you split it and there might be nothing to split maybe one information to the other. So you might actually like maybe like do a replace a space and put like a character that you can use to split it. So that's basically text to column. It will split any data you have to different columns. And the next one I wanted to show us is data validation. You use data validation when you want to like create a list where you want people to pick from. So for instance, if you create a form and you want the people to just pick from a particular list, you don't want them to bypass those characters. You can actually create data validation to like insert a list. So for instance, maybe you create a form and the names you want on this list is just the names here by the side. So if I'm going to select the cells I want it. If you go to data, if you go to, this is the data validation, it might show differently depending on the version of Excel you have. So I have data validation here. And what I want is, I can either allow any value, that means I can input anything in that cell. Or maybe I can say I can allow a list, which is what we want to do. And it's going to ask me where my list is, the source of my list. So I'm just going to select this bit here. That's the source of my list. And before I do OK, if you go to input error alerts, when a user enters an invalid data, do I want them to stop, not input the data, or do I just want a warning? Let's start with stop, okay? And okay. So if I come here, my list is already there. This is what I want them to pick. So they can either pick any. So it's always good, when you want to do like a lookup and you don't want people to put anything in the cell, you can limit what they can put in the cell. And because I selected a couple of cells, that's why I have the list on these cells. So let's assume I want to put something else that is not on the list. It's going to stop me. This value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for the cell. No matter how much you try, you can't put any other thing in that cell unless you pick one of the selection, one of the items on the list. I'm going to cancel that. So if I change the validation to just a warning, so I have the list there, but the error, so the setting is here, the list. The error is, I don't want you to stop. I just want you to think about what you're doing. So warning, please check data. Okay. And then when I type something different here, it's going to come up with a warning. Please check data. Do I still want to continue? Okay, I want to continue, yes. And it would allow you. So you can actually stop people from putting in a wrong data, or you can just bring their attention to the fact that, okay, they need to check whatever they are putting. And in terms of color, we can do the same thing for color. Insert, if we do data validation, settings, you can do a list, and you can see that there are many things you can put here. So you can actually restrict to like all numbers, or to like date or time. So depending on what you want to use that cell for, you might want to, put different restrictions on the cell. And then let's say error, you must enter a source, of course. We have to enter the source of our list, which is this. And then the error alert, I want information this time around. Is this correct? That's my message. Okay. And if I put green, that will be fine. If I put purple here, which is not part of our list, is this correct? Okay. So it would come up with whatever you set it to come up with. So that's how to use data validation and to ensure the accuracy of, if you have particular cells that you actually want to restrict people putting stuff in, you can use that. And we can also use text columns to convert dates. I don't know if you work with dates in Excel, it can be really, really temperamental, but you can use our text to columns to actually convert dates. And the way to do it is, if you select the date, if you look at this date, it has different formats. So like this starts with the month. All this, they start with the month, and they have the date in between. To convert this, I'll go to data, text to columns. All these are not necessary, so delimited next. I don't need all this, but it just defaults to what you've used before, so I'm just going to take it off. And next, and what I will do is I'll come here and change the formats. So that's the date. It starts with DMY. Let's do, this is quite funny, but you have to like pick what works best for you. So what is done is converted it, putting the month in the middle and the date first. I'm going to undo that and do that again. Text to column, next, and I want MDY finish. And this works differently based on where you are, because I remember there was a time we were doing this and someone was in US and it didn't work the same way. So it depends on where you are. So you just pick what works best for you. So I wouldn't really say pick a particular one. I know that one works. The MDY works to convert it to the British time. But depending on where you are, just use the one that works best for you, for your area. Yes, Miracle?
So in your conversion, why was this other one on the left hand, the 5/4/2017?
This one was already, this one, why is it here? I think it's just the formatting. I think it's just the formatting of the data.
Okay.
So he did convert it. It was 4/5/17 before. So all he did was he swapped the month and the date. They probably the formatting in that cell. And all I did was copy the format from this to this. Adelisa?
Okay, so I noticed that my own text column does not have date.
Your own text column does not have date?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back. So you went to the third one, data, text to columns, nest, another
Yes.
nest, and the date here. You don't have date.
Oh, okay. Another nest. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the
Yeah.
nest here.
Let me quickly check that. Oh, okay. I found it now. Thank you.
Yeah, YMD, what's that? No, that did not do anything. So I'm just gonna data text to column, just to nest. So you're using the last step 3 of 3. That's what you're using to convert it. And you well, oh, I didn't actually do anything. Text to column, nest, date, MDY, finish. And then you can also use that to convert text to numbers. So there are various ways you can convert. I think we talked about this in previous lesson. You can, to convert number to text, I think we did text to number. To convert number to text, because sometimes you might want to store your number as text for whatever reason. These numbers are stored as, these are numbers. So they are stored as numbers, but we want to convert them to text using the text to column function. And this formula is just checking if this is text. So if it's text, it will say true. If it's not a text, it will say false. So it's just confirming that this is stored as number and not text. So using text to column, I'll select my numbers down. I would go to data, text to columns, and I'm going to use that third step as well. And I'm going to use this text here. And my destination, I want it in column D, D5, and finish. So this is now a text. How do we know it's a text? You see that it has this green thing in the corner, and then it comes up with this message that the number is formatted as a text. If you want to check if it's a text, equal to is text, that will be true because this is now stored as a text. Because sometimes you might have mixed formatting in your data and you want to do VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP or any of the lookups. If it's not stored the same way, if it would not recognize that the same thing. So if you do a lookup from a number to a text, it won't work. It will not recognize it. So you might need to like convert it to a text or convert it to a number, depending on what you're doing. Okay. And if we want to use the formula to convert this to a text, it will be equal to text, open a bracket, I'll click on that, comma, and then it's going to ask you, what format do you want the text? I want it, I'll just do and then if we do equal to is text, let's see if we're able to convert it, is a text. Even though it doesn't have this bit here that shows that this is a text, this is actually a text. So sometimes it might be stored as a text and you won't have that green thing or the notification. So you can also use the formula to convert it to a text, just the same way we did the dates last week. Is that clear?
But if you use the formula to convert it, you can still drag it down.
Yeah, you can drag it down. So if you drag it all the way down, then you have your text.
Okay.
Or just if it's a long sheet, if you double click on this angle, it goes all the way down. And then that is your text. So you can use whatever works for you. There are usually different ways, different methods of doing things in Excel, which is good. So you can use whatever works for you. So when you're doing it,
I'm sorry, Kemi, can I see the formula again?
so it will be equal to text, open a bracket, click on the cell, comma, and then it asks you for the format of your text. It's usually, I think 00 works too.
Is it always this formula that for the sorry, what do you call it?
Depending
The
on,
last
because
one.
we are converting this to a text. That's why we use 00. So if we're doing date, for instance, that's when you use the DD, YY that we did last week.
If we're converting it back to numbers.
If you're converting it back to numbers, you can either multiply it by 1. So it can be equal to this multiplied by 1. You've converted it to a number. So we realize that if you check this, it will tell you it's false because it's not a text. So you have converted this back to a number. Yeah, it's just saying the formula is different. So that's one method. You can multiply it by 1. You can do equal to number value. Click on it, and then that will be stored as a number. So if I check that again, you see that it's false. It's not a text. So that is a number. And also, you can also convert it to a number by using this, convert to number. So when you do convert to number, it would convert it to number. Is that clear? Okay.
Where did you click to get the last the last box I just showed?
So this one's, if you click on it, it comes up with this box.
Okay.
If you click on this arrow, you have options.
Okay.
So you can convert to number here. So if you convert to number, then that becomes a number. Conditional formatting. Or conditional formatting is like, it's like your if, but this is just formatting. So you're formatting it based on the values or whatever you need to do at that time. So this is just a simple sales, budgeted sales, actual sales, and variance. And what I want to show here, when you have like flags to show which is bad, which is good, which is amber, green, amber, or red. We want to apply conditional formatting here to actually show different things on this data. So I'll go to conditional formatting is on the home button. So if you select your information, if you go to conditional formatting, I would pull down this arrow. And there are different elements here. So you can highlight cells based on the value. So for instance, if we highlight cells that are less than, if it's less than 1,000, for instance, you can already see what it's doing by the side. So it's highlighting it in light red, and you can choose whatever you want the highlight to be by the side. So if I do OK, it will highlight the cells based on what you put there. If I undo that, if I want to highlight cells based on duplicate values, this is a good one. When you're doing lookup, your values that you're looking up has to be unique. Otherwise, it picks the first one. So always apply conditional formatting on your data just to check that you don't have a duplicate. Otherwise, when you do a lookup on that data, it won't be correct. So always like highlight duplicate values. You should just do highlight duplicate values. If there's a duplicate here, it would highlight it. So let me put a duplicate. So we'll reapply that. So conditional format, highlight cells, duplicate values. Can you see that it's highlighted this too? So you'll be able to see if there's a duplicate or not just by a few clicks of a button. I'm going to undo that. And then, so there are different options you can use here. You have the top bottom that you can, do like average, above average, top 10%. You have data bars that you can fill it depending on what you're doing. So by the time when you hover on it, you see what it's doing. If we don't go to color scales, there are different scales depending on the values. So it's looking at the value and it just applies the scale based on the values. So you can actually apply icon sets. So if we do icon, let's pick let's do this. Oh no, let's do this one. Let's look at this icon. And you can actually manage this and put values. You can manage the rules. So if I look at this, let me put, so let's look at proper arrows. Let me use this arrows. I want to manage the rules. So I want to make sure that I can adjust where it puts the green or where it puts the amber ones depending on the information. So if I go to edit rule, these are the icons I've applied. You can change the icons there if you don't want that. So looking at my value, maybe I want the icon when it's greater than or equal to, let's say it's green when it's greater than or equal to, I have quite a big one here. So I will say 20,000. I want it to be green. And then when it's less than 20,000 and equal to, let's put around maybe 0, that will be amber. And that is number. And anything below that is red. Okay. And I'm going to apply the rules and close. So can you see that we now have amber, we have green. So depending on what you want to show, you can manage your rules depending on what you want to show. So if you want, like, what's the risk of this? If you want, like, you want it to be, strictly like just with a flag, I can replicate this information here. I can go to conditional formatting. If I want just the data set, okay, let's do this. And manage rules, edit rule. So format cell. If you look at this bit here, it says show icon only. So for this row, for this column, I want it to show the icon only. And I want to apply the same rule that I applied the last time. So the last time it was 20,000. And then I have 0 here, which is 0 number. Okay. Apply, close. And because I've picked, just icon only, it's going to give me just the icon. So it's only when you click here that you know that there's something else. But when you have like a presentation or something, it just shows you those icons. And it will vary depending on whatever the amount this is, because you've already set the rule. And all you need to do to change that rule is to select the cell, go to your conditional formatting, manage rules, and then you can edit the rule depending on what you want to do. If we change this to data bars, minimum of from, let's say, lowest value to automatic, what color? Let's see what this will come up with. Okay, apply, close. Yeah, so it's just giving me like a chart, like a bar chart, really, depending on the values. I like the other one better. Okay, and then so that's how you apply conditional formatting. If you don't want this rule anymore, all you need to do is select the data, go to conditional formatting, and you can clear your rules from your selection, or you can clear rules from your entire sheet, depending on what you want to do. If I clear rules from selected cells, then the rule is gone. Is that clear? Conditional formatting is actually really good. It can help, make your data pop just on the spreadsheet without creating like a chart. Okay, Miracle.
Sorry, the one you did on your Wix again. I didn't get that.
Which one?
The one you did on your Wix. When you're
On
trying
my
to,
wrist. Okay.
yeah, outside the Wix.
So I selected it, went to conditional formatting. I can actually do new rule. You can pick your data bar or icon set here. So I'm just going to move to the side. So it's icon set. So I picked this. So what was different was I clicked this, which is show icon only. So I only wanted the icon to show, not the numbers. And I put my criteria here. If it's greater than or equal to 20,000, I want it to be green. And if it's between 20,000 and 0, I want it to be amber. And then anything below 0 is red. And that is okay. And depending on what you're doing, you can also reverse the icon order. So if you want your negative to like be green, you can click on this to reverse the icon order. And okay. Did you get that?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And this that I did not use icon only. So I did this. And let me manage the rules. Edit rule. And I wanted number, this is 20,000 and 0. And okay, so I didn't check this show icon only, which is why I have the number and the icon beside it. So it just points people's attention to what you want them to see and how you want them to interpret the information. Okay. We're gonna do one last exercise. I'll put it in the chat now. And this is actually part of an interview question for the data analysis role and I think the business analysis role or something like that. I would add the file in. So I've sent the file to us. I'm gonna new share. So this is part of like an interview question for a business analysis role, and they were given data to analyze. This is the instruction. The first thing is the part one is the data, and they're asked to use that part one to create pivot tables based on some information that they want them to extract from it. So use the information in part one data tab to create pivot tables in the part one pivot tables tab. So we have a pivot tables tab that you need to put your pivots. We have part one, we have the data. And format the template as appropriate. Financial year is from April 1st to March 31. We are meant to populate the departmental head count data in the first table for 22-23. So the first one is we need to create pivot table so that we can use the information on the pivot to populate the information on our question 2. So the first thing is create a table of overall total female and male counts for 2022 to 2023. There's no need to break the data down by departments. So if we need to create a table of overall total female and male counts for 2022 and 2023, we know that the easiest thing to use is a pivot. And we just need the female and male count. So we'll start by creating a pivot table from our data. I hope we still remember how to create our pivot tables. So this is going to take us back to the first lessons we did. I think it was the second lesson in creating pivot tables. How do we create pivot tables? I hope we remember. We have to insert pivot table. If you're working with Excel, you really cannot avoid pivot tables. And it's so easy to do. So please practice it. So our dialog box comes up. Where's our table? Where's our data? So we need to select our data, which is here in part A. So I'll just select it all the way down. And then, okay. And then we have a blank canvas for our pivots. Based on the instruction, so overall total female and male counts for financial year 22 and 23. And they've told us that their financial year starts from April 1st to March 31. So we're going to use that information. We know that we need to filter by the financial year. So I'm going to put the financial year on the filter. Yeah, where is it? Was there a pivot here before? What was it telling me? Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. I think there was information here before. I'm going to start my pivot here. Insert pivot table, table range. I'm going to select the data. And always remember, when you select your data, select all the way down. Make sure you have headers. And okay. And then I'm going to filter by financial year. So I'm going to drag that financial year into my filters. And already we know that they've asked us for 22-23 only in the instruction, right? Male and female counts for 22-23. So on my filter, I want only 22-23, which is okay. And then I want, where is my female or male? I want the female and male. I'll drag it to the rows. And employee counts here. And that is all we need for this, for the first question. Populate the department head count.
I'm sorry to take you back.
Okay.
Back to the first question.
So the first question, Well, I think I actually skipped one. Populate the department head count data in the first table for
Okay, that's why I got
22-23. Head count data. So this is the first question I actually skipped. So that's the first thing we need to do. Populate the department head count data in the first table for 22-23. And they've given us a template. So they want the department's name. They want active permanent head counts. They want active non-permanent head counts and the total active. So they're asking us different things here. And the first thing we need to do, let's create the pivot table for that first. So I'll delete this so that we can do it again so you understand it. Insert, pivot table. We need to select our data, which is on part 1. So I'm going to select it from the top down. And okay. So this is a blank pivot. For the first one, for the first question, we know that we need a department's name, right? So let's put department's name on our row. And then we need active or permanent. So that means there's a column that shows us active or permanent, which is here, employee status. So we need active, and then we need the permanent. So either they're active or permanent, that's we need to include it here. Then active, non-permanent. So what do we do first? Let's go to our pivot table. And if they're active, so employee status. So we have active and employee type. Okay. And then we have, where's our instruction? No, template. Total active head count. So we need the total. So we need active permanent. So it would be, so we'll filter this active. We only need active here, okay? And then what do we do? Active, then active non-permanent. So I think because it's active for both of them, it's actually better for us to use this employee status. We're better off putting it as a filter. So we just show active. Are we required to do a particular year? It's just going to be for 22-23. So we need to use our financial year as another filter. So I'll put that as another filter. Yeah. And then we want active permanent, active permanent, active non-permanent. So on the pivot table, the type, I have bank staff, which you can argue is not permanent. I have contract, which is not permanent. And then I have permanent, and I have temporary. I'll just move the non-permanent to the side. So I have them. So I have the permanent first based on this template, active permanent. Then I have active non-permanent, and then the total. And then we can now pull in employee count. So just to be sure, we need to be sure that we are actually, pulling in the right information. So just to check, our financial year, we haven't filtered a financial year. So our financial year has to be 22-23. Okay. We have active, that's what we need. We have permanent, and we have all this temporary staff. And then we have the grand total. So to populate our table, what do you think we need to do to populate our table? So department name, active headcount, active non, total active. How do we populate our table? Since we've already created a pivot, how do we populate this table? Any suggestions?
We can map from the pivot table.
We can do what? Sorry?
Map.
How do we map it?
You come to this slide. This no.
This report template?
The other one, yeah.
Yeah.
The department name, the column A4.
Yeah.
Yeah, can put equal to there and
I can do equal to.
Yeah, bring in the department's name.
And bring in the department's name. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, we can.
And of course, you
down.
just drag it down.
Yeah, we can do that for permanent too.
We can do that for permanent too. Permanent is the next one. So if I drag it.
Then we can do that for these two. Just equal to and add all the non-permanent rows.
Yeah,
there.
equal to sum. You can add all the non-permanent rows. Enter. And then our total active head count.
Yeah, we can still do the same thing we did for all others.
That can
Yeah,
be
we can do the same thing. So we can do that. What else can we do? What else can we do?
I think we'll have to do some freezing.
Sorry, what did you say?
I was thinking we'll have to do some freezing to drag it down.
No, we're only selecting a cell, not a range of cells. So it doesn't really matter. We don't, if we freeze, no. So this is, so when we did that, sum of pivot equals to part 1. And this is where we need to be careful, because when you click on a pivot, it will only reflect the cell. So it's frozen on a cell. So I will say equal to, I would just make sure I'm only picking F6. Oh. So someone is raising their hand.
Yes, hi, Kemi. This is Juliet.
Hi, Juliet. Oh, we're out of time.
No. I actually have a question regarding this. So for the on the report template, where we have the grand total, can we not just add so if we go back here, can we not just add the cells, the data in column B and C?
I think that's
just add that.
That's easier.
Yeah.
We can add this instead of dragging.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you click on the pivot table, it gives you, it freezes it to that particular option. But if you do your control and click, which was what I was trying to do, then you can actually unfreeze it. So if you do control and click, although it duplicates it, but I haven't found a method to not duplicate it, so I just take one off. So of course we can add it, we can sum, which is easier. We just add, we just sum it, and we can all drag it all the way down. I was thinking someone would say we should use VLOOKUP. How else will you show the employer that you know Excel if you don't use VLOOKUP? if you're just clicking, because it's really risky when you click in a pivot table like this. I don't like to do it. And you know why? Because when you click in a pivot, if you change the options on the pivot, that pivot will move, and then you realize that your information will be wrong. So I really don't like to click inside pivots. What I would do is I would copy this. I'll copy this. I'm going to paste it here. And then I'm going to use lookup to pick the information I want, so that if this moves on the pivot, then I would know. It won't just pick whatever is in that cell. So I will use a lookup to pick this information from my pivot. That is what I would do, (2, false). Because I know that pivots can move. If you change this pivot, if I change any of the options on this pivot, if I just pick it by just clicking in a cell, it will change my information and it will not be correct again. So we can do that. What I'll do, so I'll use a lookup to pick this. So in that case, I will freeze this. I'll freeze my tables. And then I'll use that same information to pick my total. And that my total will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, column 6. So I'm just conscious about time. After this, we're going to stop. And then I will make this equal to this minus this, enter. And that is what I would be comfortable doing. And of course, our grand total is the sum. And always ensure that you go through the instruction to make sure that you are picking the right information. So we are populating the department head count for the 22-23. So it's important to make sure that you have applied the right filters. So you have 22, the financial year filtered, you have the active filtered, and you have the right type filtered on your information. And then for the total female and male counts, you know that once we create a pivot table, we don't need to create that pivot table again. We can always copy and paste it as many times as we require. So I'm going to copy this. And it's an interview, you're pressed for time. I'm going to paste this here, which is going to be our second information. And what we need for the second one is female and male. I bring out the field list. I don't need active anymore. So I don't need employee status anymore. I'll clear the filter and I'll take it off the filter. I still need the financial year. I don't need the department's name. I just need female and male. I don't need type anymore. And this is what I have. And that's the second question. That's the second bit of the question. So please play around with it. I'm going to stop now because of our time, because we need to get back. Play around with this. This is actually an actual interview question. So if you're given like 1 hour to do this and like write a report, the easiest part of it should be your Excel, your analysis of the manipulation of the data, so that you have time to do your report, any report that you need to do as part of this. So extracting your information should be the easiest part of it. So please practice this, and then we can review this next week. And also I'm going to put another file, add another file here for us. And that is our class exercise. Please, can you work on this? And we'll go through this next week. So I have a class exercise that covers most of it, a lot of the things we've been doing in the past 2-3 weeks. So please work on it, and then we can review next week. And please complete this as well. Complete the candidate exercise instruction as well. Thank you, everyone.